Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for today's program with Yonatan Paz, the head of society at the Authority of Economic Development at the Ministry of Social Equality. Yonatan oversees implementation of among other things, he's overseeing the development and implementation of the first government plan addressing socioeconomic gaps between Arab and Jewish citizens in mixed cities. And this plan is intended to be and has the potential to set precedents for future budgets and programs to address the challenges of narrowing gaps in the quality of life in Israel's most complex and diverse municipalities. Mixed cities have been a growing interest for funders for a long time, but especially since the May events of 2021. We started last year on a series, on an educational series with the Social Venture Fund on mixed cities. And in that light, today's program is both a reconnection to that series around a government plan, and the beginning of what we see is returning to that series and an ongoing conversation. Because there's really a lot to talk about. What does a government plan in mixed cities enable for civil society and for philanthropy? What questions and what precedents does it set? What are the unique challenges? So we invited Yonatan Paz and his colleague Rotem Kalmar to join us today to give us an overview of the plan, its context, and its components. And this is intended to set the stage for an in-person conversation at our annual Foundation Forum meeting on December 13th. And I'm going to plug in the registration form for that meeting, so it gets on your calendars. Please, if you can be in New York on December 13th, we really encourage you to come. We're going to have Hassan Tuwafa and Yonatan Paz, and we're really hoping to be able to use the knowledge presented in the conversation started today to go into a very pragmatic and exploratory conversation in person with the team. So before I hand it over to Yonatan, I want to share that our content experts from Israel, Ilan Amit and Shahira Shalabi, are of course here. Ilan has been working closely with Yonatan to learn about and understand the plan as it's been undergoing development. And Shahira Shalabi, as you may well know, is a member of Haifa's local council and has been part of the forum of mixed city local councilors that was consulted in the process of plan development. So they'll jump in to add commentary and clarifications. So, Yonatan, please, over to you.
Yes, hi. So I guess good afternoon. Thank you for inviting us. I'm very happy to be here. And it's a great opportunity for us to meet and share and discuss with you. As Liron said, we will present shortly, but I'll be happy if we can just have an open discussion afterwards and just share thoughts, inputs, and we'll be keen to hear from you too. With me, my colleague here, Rotem, who worked on this resolution with me together, and is responsible within the authority for the implementation. And before beginning, I'd just like to really thank Liron, Ilan, and Shahira and the team, not only for inviting us here and allowing this opportunity, but also for collaborating throughout the planning process, the input they provided and the inputs that philanthropy and other civil society actors that we were introduced through the network of organizations you work with were very significant in shaping the resolution. So thank you again, and I'm very happy to present to you the resolution. And as we said, we will present the resolution itself, but also look at the implementation and future plans that we have, and some of the challenges that we may encounter in the future. As Liron said, this is for me an opportunity to discuss now, but also we will have an opportunity to go in depth to explore some of the issues that may arise today in December. We've presented the resolution so far to key stakeholders, including local authorities, civil society organization, and activists. And this presentation today also allows us to think together about the successful execution of this program and the opportunities it may offer, because there are opportunities within the program, within the plan, I mean, as you'll learn to understand. But I presume that some of the opportunities we as government will not be able to implement ourselves. And then I presume there's a significant question that we can explore together with regard to the role of philanthropy in supporting some of the steps and perhaps complementing some of the things we as government are unable to do. So let me share the presentation, and please feel free to interrupt at any stage. It's very informal. One second. Okay. So we will look at these three issues. We will look at a snapshot of government action in general in mixed cities, and then we will explore the resolution in depth, and I guess we will have a discussion. Just in terms of background, it's very important to note that a separated government resolution determined that the Authority for Economic Development of the Arab Society will include Arab residents in the mixed cities as part of its target population. This happened before this resolution, and it allowed us and gave us the authority to include Arab residents in mixed cities as part of the population we work with. On top of that, bear in mind that only in 2021, for the first time, a series of government decisions that deal with the Arab society in Israel directly address the Arab society in mixed cities.
Oh, I think
This marks, yeah, it's okay. This marks an unprecedented step. The government recognizes the need to provide tailored actions for Arabs in mixed cities through a holistic approach that looks at shared challenges, while also recognizing the diversity and difference between the different cities. If we look at the cities, in the north, we are covering Acre, Haifa, and Nofa Galil, and in the south, Tel Aviv, Ramle, and Lod, and Ma'alot Tarshiha in the north. If we look at the population of Arab residents in mixed cities, please note that the Arabs in mixed cities account for about 8% of the total population of Arabs in Israel. As you can see, the share of or the percentage of Arabs in certain cities almost account to a third of the population. For example, in Lod, Akko, Nofa Galil. But please also note the differences between the index of local authorities, the socio-economic index of local authorities, and the index of Arab statistical areas, and the differences between the general index to that of statistical areas in which Arab residents live. This in and of itself just presents in numbers the gaps that we aim to address in the resolution. And another significant step that we took in this resolution is providing tools that allow us as government to provide for statistical areas. I'll touch on that briefly as we go along. It's also important to bear in mind that the current resolution is not the only resolution that allocates funds for Arab societies in mixed cities. Government Resolution 550, in and of itself, expands some of the coverage in certain policy areas to provide for Arab society in mixed cities. This did not happen in previous resolutions, and the policy areas that cover mixed Arabs in mixed cities include, for example, education, informal education, business development, and specific actions that meet the needs of individuals. For example, scholarships for elite sportsmen, gap year for Arab youth, which we really highlight in Arab society in Israel. It's one of the flagship activities that we currently promote, and this will also will be provided for Arab youth in mixed cities, as well as many other means, such as a free online psychometric course in Arabic, scholarships, etc. On top of that, another government resolution, which amended the resolution 549, which you may know, which deal with violence and reduction of violence and crime. And it expanded some of the coverage, focusing on safety and reducing violence in 3 cities, Akko, Lod, and Ramle. And you'll see the funds are in front of you, so you can see the total funds that are invested throughout this decision. And I'll now present the decision that we shaped for 2002 for the coming 2022 and 23. Originally, we planned to shape a resolution that will go in parallel with 550, i.e. 22 to 26. Due to the elections and legal restrictions that, or in light of the elections, we were unable to do that for 5 years. And thereby we were guided to create another follow-up decision that will basically bring the remainder of the plan to be approved by the next government. So the plan really has 3 significant goals. First, support or reduce gaps between the Arab society and the general population. Something that we do as an authority nationally, but we will focus specifically on Arabs in mixed cities. Promote shared society, something that the government did not invest in and did not look at, to the best of my knowledge, not in depth since the days of the Oslo agreements. And improving personal security and preventing violence and crime, which something that became an urgent need in light of the events of May 2021. And basically the decision, one of the most significant steps it does is basically creating a precedent by providing a definition for a mixed city, something that did not exist properly. And the state Bundesman, I guess that's how you call it, right? Mevaker Hamdina, I guess. Ombudsman, yeah.
The state controller, I think, is also the term. Controller.
Yeah, the controller.
Yeah, highlighted this issue too. So the mixed city is defined as having a majority of Jewish population. I mean, you can see the definition in front of you. But we addressed here a long-standing challenge, which was the absence of a definition. It frames, the definition is useful for the resolution itself, but it allows, I think, other government ministries to use and leverage this definition in setting and shaping future policy that concern these cities. And we think that this may be used as a very significant precedent for policy in the future. The cities that are covered by the resolution are in front of you. Divided. Yes.
Did you see? I just want to jump in real quick here with Alan's question.
Yeah, sure.
What about cities that meet the definition of a mixed city but don't accept it, like Nofa Galil? I know it's a large issue, so can you give us a short response to that now, and we'll bookmark the deeper conversation for later?
Yeah. As I said, from our perspective as a government, I mean, we provided a definition. So as long as this definition stands, we covered the cities in front of you. I think what we see gradually, perhaps through the definition, what we may see is, or hope to see, is that municipalities will largely
excuse me, Sarah would like you to put the definition of the mixed cities. If you can go one back slide. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Yeah. So if you look at this definition, if there's more than 20% of the city's residents or more than 20,000 residents, then the city is included in the resolution. With regard, for example, to Nofa Galil, yes, it's. I mean, one should also note in general, and this is our one of the really areas that we came to understand, the cities are very, very different from each other. Each city, as you know, and I know philanthropy is very active in mixed cities, perhaps much before, long time before the government went in depth into those cities. They're very different, and each city has its own story, needs, requirements, and difference in terms of socioeconomic scale and index. But these are the cities that we covered. Nof HaGalil, for example, yes, I agree. It does not see itself at the moment as a mixed city. Nonetheless, the number of Arab residents in these cities is very significant, and it will need to gradually develop services and not only rely on Nazareth, the city next to it. And it's also a new city by name. We are also aware that this does not, that the cities in front of you or the resolution does not cover mixed cities in formation, such as Be'er Sheva and Carmiel. What we know is, and we looked at the numbers, the current official numbers of Arab residents in these cities are small in terms of official numbers. But we also know that some residents do not change their official address. So, for example, if we look at Carmiel, residents from Majd al-Krum, Deir el-Assad, the villages next to it, a lot of them move in due to different considerations, but do not change their address. So we did not cover these cities currently. They also don't see themselves at all as mixed cities, but we're very much aware of this phenomenon, and I presume that, or expect that it will increase in the future. Jerusalem is not included, but because it has its own separate government resolution. So let me briefly introduce present the process that we went through by formulating the decision. We started by understanding the situation. I must say that there wasn't very much knowledge within government ministries or outside, really, about the status of Arabs in the mixed cities. Not coherently, and not with regard to the specific policy areas that we were interested in, such as employment, education, etc. We conducted a joint research with the Israeli Democracy Institute, the research that really started before May 2021. Cooperation with the National Bureau of Statistics and the Institute, which was very, very successful and significant, and a very good experience in terms of the outcome. I'm happy to share the publication. To the best of my knowledge, it's only available in Hebrew at the moment, but I guess there's an abstract in English, and perhaps I'll share some of the findings when we meet in December. But this really allowed us to collect the data and identify the gaps with regard to the areas that we were interested in. And we moved on after sort of setting the baseline in terms of needs to really speak with the people in the cities. We spoke, not only Arabs, of course, but we spoke with the municipalities, the different functions within the administration. We discussed with the forum of the representatives of Arab council members. Kadaya, Shahira was with us, and many of her colleagues. We spoke with civil society organizations, and we published a call for position papers. We received 24 responses. And again, I think some of the trusts that you're in touch with also shared their input here, as well as many other consultation meetings. And this really allowed us to take in a lot of the through this sharing and listening and reading position papers. It really allowed us to hear different perspectives and focus on certain policy areas and formulate the responses with regard to what we see as the most urgent needs and according to what we heard. So there was a significant collaborative effort here in the planning phase, and what we really like to continue to do is to move on to implementation in the same collaborative manner. And here I see you as significant actors with us, as well as others that are in the field. Let me move on to the focus areas that are covered in the plan. There are 6 areas that the plan directly address: education, youth, employment, social and welfare services, and culture and sports. Personal safety is also addressed, but through the amendment I mentioned previously. We also identified 2 additional policy areas that are of highly importance. One is housing, an urgent and significant need for Arabs in mixed cities, and the second is local governments, meaning here all the aspects that concern how municipalities treat, address, and the mechanisms they have to communicate and to provide services for Arabs in mixed cities. These 2 chapters in the resolution were excluded at this stage due to the coming elections. We didn't get green light from the Ministry of Justice to include them, but we very much hope and want to include them in the follow-up decision. Again, we look at the mixed cities holistically, and these 2 ingredients are crucial. The authority, the Authority for Economic Development is a unit that integrates. We do not implement ourselves. I guess you know that from what we do with Resolution 550, but the ministries that you see in front of you are the ministries that are part of the resolution, and they will be the actors that will implement the different actions. I'll briefly review the central components that are included in the resolution. So with regard to youth, we plan to expand the activities, as I mentioned, of youth engagement centers and provide gap year programs for Arab youth in mixed cities. With regard to employment, we see this as also a very significant need. We aim to develop employment guidance through perhaps centers or other ways to provide services that encourage employment and offer basic skills such as Hebrew learning, English, and others. And also address at the same time social services. We will expand existing social services programs and focus on elements that concern human capital, or in other words, Arab social workers in welfare department. I'm not sure that's the term, but social services departments in mixed cities. There are very few Arab social workers in the departments. It depends on the city again, but for example, in Lod and Ramle, this is a very important and urgent need. And it's something that the Ministry of Welfare and Social Services need to address. We will also promote community dialogue and mediation. This is again budgeted significantly. It's a way to increase engagement between Jews and Arabs and minimize tensions. There's a very good infrastructure in the cities, but it needs to be better developed, and expanded. Education.
Yes, Yonatan, quick question before from Alan again, is if there's a shortage of Arab social workers generally in Israel beyond mixed cities, or is this specific?
Yes, it's part of a national problem or challenge. and even more so within the Arab society. And then again, if you look at the number of social workers, their wage, the possibility they have to generate higher wage through working in the private sector or with community organizations, working in a municipal department or welfare department is very, very difficult. So yes, it's a national problem. And the challenge here is to get a social worker, for example, from Taipei, to get into his car and be willing to drive to Lod, work very hard there, meet harsh cases, perhaps be threatened at extreme cases, and be willing to do that step and go back home to Taipei. And the question that we have in front of us is what sort of incentives we can provide for that. And again, due to this national problem, we also need to deal with, I mean, they need to address too the needs of other social workers. So we cannot create significant imbalances by, for example, providing incentives for Ramle and Lod, but not providing these incentives in Eilat or Chatzor in the north, Jewish cities that also suffer from the same problem. So yes, it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that needs to be addressed.
I think Yonatan, if I may just add one sentence, because I also read the reports and I know the data, and I think it's not just extremely difficult situations in which the welfare departments in the municipalities of the mixed cities are, it's also the huge lack in Arab social workers. Yes. And the fact that we mainly have, when we have Jewish social workers within Arab, mostly serving Arab welfare departments in the mixed cities, which is a huge barrier also.
Yeah, I mean, we can have a 1 hour discussion only about only with regard to this issue. It really is a major issue. And I'll just mention one more thing because you did mention it. I mean, there's also many Arab social workers that go to study in Jordan and the Palestinian Authority. They then graduate and go back to their homes and want to be employed in Israel, but then the quality of training they get is very low. And this not only harms them, but also reduces the quality of services. So that's another challenge we need to deal with nationally.
I think also, you know, in Haifa, 40 positions of social workers are needed in Haifa. 40. You know what does that mean? And you know, the age of the start to study in the university is 20. In some of the universities is 21, and for an Arab students, especially the women, when they are in the age 21, they are after the first degree. So it's very late for them to start to study at the age of 20, 21. And this is one of the issues that Arab women start going to study the social work. But this is not our case now. We need just
yeah,
please continue.
No, but again, I mean, if you're interested in this issue, I'll be more than happy to expand on it in December. It's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed. Again, shared society, that's a major aspect of the decision of the resolution. The Ministry of Education here will act to strengthen shared society programs. It received additional significant budget to do that during the program years, and it is now shaping targeted activities that will reach not only the students but also the teachers, the directors of the schools, and I'll expand on that a bit more further on. We also wish to establish daycare centers in Arab neighborhoods. This is Haifa, for example, is a very good example. Shahira, I guess you know that. I mean, there are, to the best of my memory, none or very few daycare centers in Arab neighborhoods in Haifa.
None official ones. We have only private ones. Mm-hmm. We have 30 in Haifa. We have 35 official Jewish daycares for kids, and none for Arabs. We have so many private ones.
Yeah. So here, obviously, I'm talking about the officials one, the government-sponsored ones. And again, what we did through these statistical areas that I mentioned earlier, in the resolution, we shaped the way it is formed is that daycare centers can only be funded and built in Arab neighborhoods in mixed cities. To provide for that absence. There are significant budgets going for sports initiatives and cultural programs in Arab society in mixed cities. I very much hope that the culture and sports program in Resolution 550, which, for example, in December, there will be many calls for proposal to establish, for example, a theater and cinematheque and other big culture facilities that may, I mean, for some of them at least, I guess a good place to build them will be in urban centers such as Haifa, for example, or Lod. We also aim to provide incentives for the municipalities to build sports facilities in Arab neighborhoods. We reduced the matching the municipalities are required to provide if they go ahead and decide to build sports facilities in those neighborhoods. So that's another tool. And as you see, there are many steps, many planned steps, and more to come. And what we are also wish to develop is a model to assist local authorities in implementing the resolution. And here, what we plan to do is to place what we call integrators, which will be individuals who will be responsible not only to implement this resolution specifically, but to support the municipalities in seeing the needs and shaping the responses for Arab residents in mixed cities. We are currently developing the model. We are looking at possible partners to engage with us on what may be a joint venture or perhaps only a government-sponsored program. But this is a very crucial ingredient of the program. And another significant and largely funded step is another call for proposals by the Negev Galil, the Ministry of Negev Galil, that looks at shared society programs funded. It accounts for 15 million shekels. In a variety of fields. This will be published very shortly, right, Rotem, in the coming weeks, right?
Yes.
We worked very closely with the ministry in shaping the responses and correcting some of the measures that we saw as not very successful in the previous call. And we really hope that this call will be very much focused on the needs of the Arab society. And what Rotem did through very significant field work with the municipalities themselves and officials in the municipalities, we learned what are the needs, and we now have a very good connection with them. So this, I hope, will be a very significant step too. If we look at the budget and how it is divided, the total is 46. 13 million are supplementary funds, and 15 more come from Resolution 550, and 18 more is funded by the ministry's own budget. I'm about to finish.
Can I ask a question? Could you
Sure.
just explain the priorities within those categories? Meaning, is there a priority on education versus culture versus employment? Like, how's?
Yeah. So the measures that you see here are not presented by or through priority. These are the central components of the resolution. They're divided in terms of the different ministries that I presented previously, but each and every step here needs to be executed by the different ministries. So everything here is part of the parcel, as I said, and and the different elements are very much interlinked. So I guess, I mean, yes, obviously as the ministries will move on to implementation, certain things will happen before others. But in terms of the government resolution, they're obliged to act according to the resolution and implement all the steps. As we all know, I mean, planning is one phase and then implementation is another. I presume we will encounter many challenges. So let me just look at the process here, and then I'll share indeed some of those challenges that I think you should also know. So yes, the program was approved in August 2022. Next week, we plan to have an approval of the standing committee. It's the same standing committee that look at the resolution 550, and it will approve the work plans of the different ministries. They are presenting the program to us. They're presenting the different measures with regard to measurement of the steps that they plan to execute, how the money will work, if you will. And once the work plan programs are approved, we will look we will budget them, or the Ministry of Treasury will budget them immediately in December, and then moving on to implementation from January 1st. Yes, there are many challenges with regard to this process, and as you know, I mean, we have national elections coming next week, and in light of the elections, there will be an absence of state budget from January 1st. I'll stop sharing so I can see you. On top of that, I mean, this program, as I said, is currently 1 year. There's a lot of, there's a bit of uncertainty with regard to the future politically. I mean, we need to see what the government will, how the next government will look like. But the next resolution, this resolution guides us to bring forward another resolution. So that should happen unless the government decides to cancel that. I mean, it's a very strict measure. I don't think it will happen. On top of that, we need to develop contact with the municipalities and making sure that funds are allocated to the Arab residents and neighborhoods. There's a gap between what we as central government can do, and we need to make sure that the municipalities use the funds they receive in the manner that was planned with them. But we should also remember that there are elections coming for local authorities in October 2023, a year from now. So that will also impact the way the resolution is implemented. So yes, there are many challenges. We are aware of them. But our role is making the best of this resolution, making the best of the budgets, perhaps leveraging some of the impact that you have and the funds that you may allocate to perhaps expand some of the existing activities and support some of the actors that work alongside what we do with municipalities and civil society actors, and make sure that Arab residents really feel the change that takes place through this resolution and other steps that I mentioned earlier. So yes, it's a significant challenges, but we as the Authority for Economic Development of the Arab Society are very much committed. And I feel that many of our partner ministries are also committed. And I feel there is a significant awareness coming from this resolution. And our role is to implement, and we very much hope to do that with success. And that's about it for now, at least.
That's about it for the overview. I think it's the beginning of a conversation. So I wanna really thank you for this overview of a very complex plan, of a very complex process, and putting it in the context of the larger funding. There's already a question from Sarah in the chat, but I just want to say, I want to invite Ilan and Shahira to comment freely, also jump in and help with the responses to clarify between what we know about the context of the philanthropic discussion and the plan. And I want to invite not only questions, but also comments from the room about what about this highlighted, what about this was stood out for you as an interest area, something that you'd want to learn more about, something that's familiar to you, something that's totally unfamiliar. So let's really have this as a conversation. Sarah, to kick us off, we'll go with Sarah and Lily's question. Sarah, given the 1-year limit, and fingers crossed that more years of funding will come, what are your priorities for the first year? And then Lily asked what the general sum is of this resolution. And then I invite really, and just feel free to unmute yourself and speak or raise your hand if you can have an open discussion.
So the general sum for the resolution is 46 million. For this resolution specifically, the budget that exists for mixed cities in government resolution 550 is 300 million directly, out of which certain funds were already allocated, as I presented in the beginning, for example, through this resolution, and the one that addresses personal safety and crime through an amendment to decision 549. With that in mind, as I said, we should also remember that resolution 550 in itself also provides funds for Arabs in the mixed cities. In terms of priorities, it's hard to say. We didn't approve the work plans yet. We will do that next week. I personally think that education and certain employment steps that we will shape are of very, very big importance. But as I said, all the steps that exist in the resolution need to be implemented. So there isn't really a certain priority area that we can say, yes, this will happen, and other steps we can give up on. No, we started with a holistic approach, and we believe that the majority of steps need to be implemented. And I presume naturally we will encounter certain challenges. I very much hope that the absence of state budget and the elections will not affect us significantly. I cannot say it will not affect us, because I'm sure it will affect us, but we need to do our best to allocate the funds and make sure that the ministries not only get the money, but also able to set up the partnerships and connections to sort of charge it, i.e. making sure that it's in action.
I just want to add, Yonatan, if I may. I think this is not just about the sums of money allocated for the implementation of this government resolution. I see this government resolution as groundbreaking for two main reasons. One, because of the creation of a definition of what a mixed city is, which creates possible leverages in the future for further allocation of budgets, and the definition of the mixed cities as areas of national priority, which definitely enables leverages in other areas of programming and funding. It's not just about what's allocated, it's about the path that it paves for leveraging additional budgets in the future, specifically for the mixed cities. So that's groundbreaking.
I think it's also important. I agree with you. I totally agree, Ilan, that it's very important. And for me as a city councillor, it's was very important to bring, the voices of the Arab residents of the mixed cities to the table. It means that usually a municipality got a budget from the government in order to serve all of its citizens, okay? And the Arab citizens were related just like citizens of the city without seeing the socio-economical gaps between the two groups. And what is this resolution says is that there is a gap inside the cities, and the Arab neighborhoods should get very special funding from the government. And this is something that you don't have to beg for the mayor in order to just give you the budget. The government is give you the budget. One problem with this resolution is the matching, because in each budget that a city gets from the government, the municipality should put 25% from its own money. And this is what would be one of the obstacles. I don't know, Yonatan, if you dealt with this or not, because some of the cities, just like Lud, no, it's not Haifa, not all the cities are Akka and Haifa. So what are you going to say if you will say that I want to give you 1 million shekel for working with youth, and you should put 25,000 shekels, then Lud will say, I'm not going to put this, take your money. So there are so many things that we need to deal with them, because the problem of the mixed cities is not only financial one, it's also political one. As I don't remember, I think maybe it was Sarah that asked about Nofa Galil. Nofa Galil is a very, very rich municipality, but Nofa Galil doesn't want to recognize the Arab residents as residents of the city. They treat them as people who are coming to sleep in the hotel. In the morning, they take their kids to Nazareth, the schools in Nazareth. In the afternoon, they go to Nazareth to watch a movie, to watch a show, and to have their non-formal education, like music and sport and etc. They have their own businesses in Upper Nazareth and Nofa Galil. They pay taxes for Nofa Galil, but they are not getting any kind of services. And it's a very rich, it's a very rich municipality, and we need just to figure, in order to work, to continue the work that you're doing as a government institution, that we need also to strengthen the street. We need to organize the people, to organize the people in order to ask for their rights, because you are bringing the money, you are bringing the decision, and we need the people, the residents of the city, to decide how do they want to work with you as a government institutions and with the municipality. And this, I see that this is the main challenge today.
That opens up a whole set of conversations, but we have a list, and we're keeping track. We're keeping track of the issues that are coming up, and this is why we thought to do this, and then have the conversation at the annual meeting that can start to delve into the specific issues that come up. So I have Donald, Nicole, Mark, and Sarah. Donald.
Thank you, and this has been a very helpful presentation. I was just going to ask, which is a related question to the discussion we were just having, how you're going to encourage the municipalities to develop the leadership infrastructure to be able to cooperate with the government on the allocation of the funds.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think this has several layers. First of all, there's awareness and discourse about this resolution. I think Arab residents and the municipalities themselves, and the leaders, the mayors and deputies and heads of departments in the municipalities are very well aware of the resolution, the funds it brings, and the actions that they are required or asked to take. I have to say that we did not encounter, despite what sometimes sometimes we look at this, cities that have sort of different approaches to the Arab society in Israel, but overall there is willingness to implement the steps, to bring forward. I mean, mayors are keen to use the funds and bring achievements. Yes, in many cities, these are not their constituencies, But nonetheless, we did not encounter sort of resistance or anything like that. But yes, I think a lot of our work need to be done through those integrators that I mentioned, and through support from the ministries themselves. So, for example, if the Ministry of Education now is planning to shape different plans for shared society, or to, for example, establish a forum for school directors, Jewish and Arab school directors, then the head of the education department at different municipalities will need to work with the officials who are responsible in the Ministry of Education and cooperate to execute the program successfully. So there are many formations that allow cooperation. I don't know if that directly addresses the leadership aspect of your question, but I mean, I guess the government is somewhat limited in developing grassroots leadership from within the cities, and perhaps this is something that we can think about together with regard to what philanthropic funds can do, and the sort of work that civil society organizations can do that we as government sometimes can.
Nicole, do you want to ask?
That was one of the reasons I asked the question.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just wondering who's going to connect the dots between all these different players. There are so many ministries involved. Like, how did each ministry know what the other one is doing, and whether there could be some overlap between them?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and indeed a challenge. I guess this relates a bit more to our role as an integrator here, because yes, I mean, the different ministries involved, they see their own territory, and they have a lot of work within it. But I'll give you an example of something a little step we are now taking, which I hope will be a model for future. So now, for example, as I said, in the coming weeks, a call for proposal worth 15 million shekels will be issued, allocating 3 million shekels for each city. Next week, we will meet in Akko with representatives, not next week, in the coming, when is it, Rotem?
November 16th.
No, November 16th, in about 2 weeks' time. We will meet in Akko, which agreed to host a session of 5 officials from each municipality coming to share, discuss, and think about the work plans they're planning to execute in this call for proposals. So this is one way, for example, a little initiative to coordinate and share knowledge. And this is, for example, something we can do in terms of our role. But as Shahira said, and I think this is a very significant or an important point, I mean, the municipalities themselves, I think, need to be encouraged to share and collaborate and communicate the means with the Arab society or Arab residents in the cities. How we do that and how we encourage them, it's an open question. We in the resolution did not allocate funds for that, but it's something that we really should work on, and I'm sort of taking that with me for further thought, because it's something that needs to be addressed.
Yonatan, excuse me, I remember that in our meeting you mentioned, with Hassan, you said that you will have a director in each municipality that will lead the programs inside each. It's a special position that you would like to.
Yeah, I mean, we call it, as I said, integrator. Within the municipalities, there are officials, they head the departments, they have roles. The roles are defined by the Ministry of Interior, which has a very long and exhausting, I must say, process to shape official definitions, because that's something we looked at previously, because we wanted this to be an official definition, but it's too long. It takes too long to shape. So perhaps it's a bit like a Mawarid, or which some of you may know from Resolution 550. We want those integrators to be placed in the cities and work with the municipalities. We are shaping the model as we speak, so we're not sure yet if they will be funded directly by the municipalities. We hope that we will find a model that does not place them directly under the sort of the wage and control coming directly from the municipalities, but they will be responsible for implementing the decision and perhaps giving more voice to Arab residents in the mixed cities.
I think, Yonatan, if I may add one sentence about the role of the integrators, I think when you use the term integrators, I think people here in this group think about Mawarid, and I think that in the context of mixed cities, they have maybe an additional role. When you allocate state funding from 550 or 1279 to Arab local authorities, the funding goes to the municipality, the Arab municipality, in order to strengthen different municipal services. I think that in the case of the mixed cities and the integrators that you're mentioning, those people would have a double role, not just attracting the funding and making sure that implementation happens, but also assuring the state and in this case philanthropy that the funding actually goes to Arab society or to shared society program, which is not less complicated than the implementation itself, because those funds, those resources can easily end up on the wrong side of the city, and not necessarily where they're supposed to get to.
Listen, I have to come in and just do a time check because we're 2 minutes to 1. We scheduled 1 hour. I want to ask Yonatan and Rotem if you can stay a little longer for those people that can stay and answer questions. And really to emphasize that this conversation we understand is the beginning of a series of conversations. So if you don't get your questions answered here, email us and we will make sure they're included in the ongoing conversations. Opportunity to meet Yonatan on December 13th. I'll put the form again, and afterwards, while he's in New York, to schedule coffees and one-on-one meetings. So we had Mark had to run off. David and wait. David left. He asked about unpermitted construction in Lod and Ram. Nurit, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, my name is Nurit. I represent the Brain Foundation. It's a British family foundation. We're funding currently the Abraham initiatives. They were approached by the Ministry of Welfare to deal with welfare professionals in big cities and municipalities. And this is part of the government allocation to an NGO that can implement work in big cities. I think this is something that you touched on, but you didn't expand. I just wanted to put it there. It'd be good to hear if more similar initiatives were taking place.
Yeah, so many thanks for this observation. First of all, I'd like to say that specifically the Abraham initiative, we cooperated very closely in terms of they have significant expertise in the mixed cities. And out of, I mean, there's sort of a lot of work being done in Israel and mixed cities, but they provided significant input into this decision. I'm familiar with the program you mentioned. It's a specific chapter or line in the government resolution. The plan you mentioned is being extended for 2023. So what they did in 2022 with the Ministry of Welfare post May 21 events was really setting the ground and understanding how a welfare department should work in a joint and mixed cities. And now, after sort of jointly understanding how it should work, it's time to implement. So we allocated, or the ministry, to the best of my knowledge, allocated nearly 330,000 shekels for this program in 330,000 shekels for this program in 23. And this cooperation continues. So in many ways, I guess this is a very optimist scenario where a program which was supported by philanthropy is now being not only adopted but also implemented by the ministry in this government resolution.
David, I'm sorry, you had moved on my screen. Do you want to ask the question about the unpermitted housing?
Yes, a key problem in Lod, and I believe in Ramla as well, had been, and I just have not gotten updates on the extent of the not legally owned land in the Arab neighborhoods, and which prevented municipal services such as utilities to be provided there. I understand that there were some efforts to make progress there. Can you update us as to where they stand?
Yes, I mean, you're right. It's a major issue. I'm not familiar with the exact steps that were taken. I know that there was a committee headed by the Ministry of Treasury addressing this issue, which is also significant, by the way, in Jaffa. This committee came up with a report and recommendations, but it was sort of frozen because of the elections. So it awaits now. I expect it to be published after the elections. I'm not familiar with the exact findings, but I can look into it and perhaps expand a bit in December.
Yeah, I think
Much appreciate that.
Yeah, David,
Sure.
excuse me, if I can add here, I think it's a really a main issue. It's not only in Lod and Ramli and Jaffa, the housing issue in the Arab society in general and in the mixed cities in particular is an issue. And I think this resolution didn't deal with this. So we just started. If you talk about this resolution, what is important of this, that it started a process that says that the needs of the Arab population in the next cities should be taken in consideration in governmental resolutions, and we really need to discuss it again. Yonatan, maybe I don't know if you're taking part in this or not, but this is an important thing. If you don't solve the housing issues in the cities, you will have all these violent issues, and then you will have all these poverty issues, and the situation that we have, and the gaps. The big gaps are also based on the places that you live in. Because if you move, I can see this in Haifa, people who have the ability to move from the old and the old neighborhoods, they can improve their lives because they will have better education, they will have better access to workplaces, and they will have more access for non-formal education. And this is very important thing, because in order to move, we need also to fix the infrastructures and not only the education.
No, yes, totally agree with the notion that housing is an important aspect to be addressed in the mixed cities. And yes, as I said, there is a planned. We plan to address this issue in the follow-up resolution.
Look, we've gone over time. I want to invite people to email me, Ilan, Shahira, and we can set up side conversations either over Zoom with about any of the issues, have coffee with Yonatan when he's here after our meeting. We really see this as the beginning of a longer conversation. So again, do sign up for the meeting so that we know you're coming. And it would be great to see you there. And please, thank you, Yonatan Otem, for all the hard work and for being
very
so
much.
available and present.
Thank you. This was great. Thank you, Yonatan and Liron and Shahira and Ilan.
I'm very, we're again very happy and here to answer any questions.
Okay.
Thank you and
Bye-bye.
good
Thank
evening
you.
to
Toda.
Israel.
תודה, יונתן. תודה, רותם.